Stop calling it weird. Hand flapping, rocking, fidgeting, that's not something to fix. It's a superpower to celebrate. For decades, we have misunderstood this completely, and it has hurt kids every single day. Hi, I'm Alex, and if you've ever told a child to stop flapping their hands, to sit still, or to keep their hands quiet, you're not alone. We all learned that fidgeting meant not paying attention, that rocking meant something was wrong, that these movements were problems that needed fixing. I did it too. With my own neurodivergent child, I spent 2 years trying to stop the stimming. Hands down, sit still, stop bouncing, look normal. Every time I corrected them, I saw a little light go out in their eyes. Then I learned something that changed everything. Those movements I was trying to stop, they weren't the problem. They were the solution. Stimming isn't broken behavior. It's brilliant regulation. And when we make kids stop, we're not helping them fit in. We're forcing them to work 10 times harder just to exist in a world that wasn't designed for their brains. So let's fix this now. In the next 7 minutes, you'll understand what stimming really is, why neurodivergent brains need it, and how to support it instead of stopping it. Let's go. First, let's be clear about what we're talking about. Stimming is short for self-stimulatory behavior. It's repetitive movements, sounds, or actions that help regulate the nervous system. Hand flapping, rocking, spinning, finger snapping, leg bouncing, humming, repeating phrases. These aren't random weird behaviors. They're purposeful regulation tools. Here's what most people don't understand. Everyone stims. Seriously, everyone. When you tap your pen during a meeting, that's stimming. When you twirl your hair while thinking, that's stimming. When you pace on the phone, bounce your leg under the table, or drum your fingers when you're waiting, you're stimming. The only difference is that neurotypical stims are considered acceptable, while neurodivergent stims are labeled as weird or inappropriate. But neurologically, both are doing the exact same thing. They help your nervous system regulate. The difference lies in intensity and frequency. ADHD and autistic brains experience the world with the volume turned way up. More sensory input, more emotional intensity, and more information to process. So they require more regulation. More movement and more stimming. It's not excessive. It's exactly what their nervous system needs. Let's delve into brain science, because this is where it becomes really fascinating. Neurodivergent brains process sensory information differently. For someone with autism, the world is louder, brighter, and more intense. Sounds that neurotypical people filter out are overwhelming to them. Lights that seem normal are blinding. Textures that are comfortable for others are unbearable. Their nervous system is constantly taking in more data than it can comfortably handle. For someone with ADHD, the issue is different but related. Their brain is constantly seeking stimulation. Insufficient dopamine means they need more input to feel regulated and focused. That's why kids with ADHD bounce, fidget, and move constantly. They're not being disruptive. They're literally keeping their brain engaged so they can concentrate. So what does stimming accomplish? 3 major things. First, it regulates sensory input. When Mia flaps her hands, she's giving her brain predictable sensory feedback that helps her process the unpredictable input around her. Second, it manages emotions. When Kai rocks, he's literally calming his nervous system. The repetitive motion triggers the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode. Third, it helps maintain focus. When Jordan fidgets with something, They're giving the sensory-seeking part of their brain what it needs so the thinking part can concentrate. Here's the key point. Stimming isn't a symptom of not paying attention. It's often how neurodivergent kids pay attention. When you make them stop, you're not helping them focus. You're making focus impossible. So what happens when we tell kids to stop stimming? 3 things happen, and they're all bad. First, cognitive overload. When you force a child to suppress their stims, you're asking them to use massive amounts of mental energy to control their body instead of learning, connecting, or being present. Imagine trying to have a conversation while manually controlling your heartbeat. That's what we're asking of them. Second, emotional dysregulation. Stimming is how they manage big feelings. When you take away their regulation tool, the feelings don't disappear. They build up. You're not preventing a meltdown by stopping the stimming. You're guaranteeing one later. Third, shame and masking. When we consistently tell children their natural movements are wrong, inappropriate, or weird, we teach them that who they are is unacceptable. So they learn to mask, to hide their neurodivergence, to suppress who they are to make other people comfortable. And here's the devastating part. Research shows that masking is directly linked to anxiety, depression, and burnout in autistic and ADHD adults. When we make kids stop stimming, we're not helping them succeed. We're teaching them that acceptance is conditional, that they have to perform normalcy to be worthy of respect. That's not support, that's harm. Now, here's the nuanced part. Not all stimming is healthy, and it's important to understand the difference. Stimming is healthy when it's regulatory, when it helps the child feel better, calmer, more focused. It's part of who they are. But sometimes, stimming can be harmful. This is rare, but it matters. Self-injurious stimming, things like headbanging, hitting, or biting hard enough to cause injury, that's communicating distress. It's not about stopping the behavior. It's about figuring out what's causing that level of dysregulation and addressing it. Usually, the reasons are unmet sensory needs, communication barriers, or environments that are overwhelming. Destructive stimming, such as breaking things or actions that truly interfere with learning or relationships, may require redirection, but not elimination. Redirection to a safer and more appropriate alternative that satisfies the same sensory need. Compulsive stimming that causes distress to the child themselves is another concern. Some children get stuck in stim loops that increase anxiety instead of easing it. Again, this is not about stopping stimming. It's about support, sensory tools, and often collaborating with an occupational therapist who understands neurodivergence. However, these cases are exceptions rather than the rule. The vast majority of stimming is healthy and helpful. And it should be celebrated, not corrected. So how can you support stimming instead of stopping it? First, normalize it. When you notice your child or student's stimming, don't react as if it's a problem. If they're flapping, rocking, or fidgeting, that's their brain doing exactly what it needs to do. You can even describe it positively. For example, I can see you are really excited. Your body is showing it. Or, you're working hard to focus, and that movement is helping you. Second, provide STEM-friendly tools like fidget toys, chewable jewelry, noise-canceling headphones, weighted lap pads, rocking chairs, and standing desks. These are not accommodations for broken kids. They are tools designed for different brains. Every classroom and home should offer them without stigma. Third, create STEM-friendly spaces by designating areas where bigger movements are welcomed. For example, a corner with a yoga ball, a swing, or an open space to move freely. This isn't about rewarding bad behavior. It's about acknowledging different needs. Fourth, educate others such as teachers, family members, and peers. Help them understand that stimming isn't disrespect or distraction. It's a form of regulation. And finally, encourage children to advocate for themselves. As they grow older, assist them in understanding their own stims. What helps you focus? What calms you down? When do you need movement? Teaching self-awareness and self-advocacy is the greatest gift you can give a neurodivergent child. Here's the mindset shift that changes everything. Stop seeing stimming as something to manage. Start seeing it as something to celebrate. When Mia flaps her hands with joy, that's not something to quiet. That's pure, unfiltered happiness that deserves space. When Kai rocks to focus, that's not distraction. That's his brain working exactly as it should. When Jordan fidgets to stay present, that's not disrespect. That's effort and engagement. Neurodivergent kids are not broken versions of neurotypical kids. They're complete, whole, brilliant humans whose brains work differently. And different isn't less than. It's just different. When we make space for stimming, we're not lowering standards. We're expanding what success looks like. We're saying, you belong here exactly as you are. So the next time you see a child flapping, rocking, bouncing, or fidgeting, don't correct them. Celebrate them. They're not misbehaving. They're regulating like absolute champions. If this changed how you think about stimming, save this video. Share it with teachers, family, anyone in your child's life. Drop a comment and tell me, what's your or your kid's favorite stim? Let's normalize neurodiversity together. And if you want more content celebrating differences and supporting neurodivergent kids, subscribe. I post every week with real strategies that actually respect and support different brains. You've got this. Your kid is perfect exactly as they are. Now let's build a world that sees it too.